Hello, hi. Sorry, I was on mute, so I don't think you could have heard anything I was saying. But welcome, I Do in the Caribbean group. And I hope everyone is having a good day today. We just had our second set of snowstorm here in New York. So I just digged that yesterday, and hopefully we don't have any more storms for the rest of the week. But I just want to come on here to talk about planning your destination wedding. And first, I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Sandra Morris, and I am a two-time destination wedding bride. I had my first destination wedding in 2015 with about 100 guests. And I had my second destination wedding at a Sandals resort in Sandals, Grenada. And it was just my husband and myself. So that was just a wedding for two people. And when I was planning my destination wedding, I found that it was a little bit stressful and overwhelming because it's very hard to plan a wedding in a foreign country when you haven't planned one before. And there isn't enough information out there to help you get enough information so you can plan your wedding. So for me, I found that very challenging. So I created this Facebook group for couples, brides, most of all, who are planning a destination wedding to try to give them the information they would need so they can plan their wedding, whether it's giving them information about resorts or information about traveling, what's going on in the wedding industry, just so that they have enough information so they can start planning their wedding. And for myself, I also am a destination wedding planner. So if people don't want to plan it themselves or are feeling overwhelmed, don't have the time, they can always reach out to me and I'll be more than happy to schedule some time so we can go through what you're looking for in planning your wedding. But when you join this group, I gave out the destination wedding checklist. So this is a document that I'm going to use, and it's also in the group. So if you are in the group, you should be able to find the destination wedding checklist and timeline that I'm going to be talking about. So this is where most of the information is, but I'm going to be adding information as I go along with tips or things that I think are more important for you to think about. So the first thing is a lot of people in this group are still thinking about a destination wedding. Mean that, with COVID going on, people are afraid to travel. They don't know if a destination wedding is still right for them. So for me, that is a decision you really have to think about. If, people that you're going to invite, are they going to want to travel during this time? The fact that we have vaccination and hopefully the numbers are going down, the further out you have your wedding, to me, the better the possibility that people are going to want to travel. So the first thing you have to decide on is, do you really want this destination wedding? Things you should think about is, what destination are you thinking about having the wedding? For me, the best destination for weddings, especially for all-inclusive resort, is Jamaica, Mexico, and DR, because those to me are easy to get to from anywhere within the United States. They are very reasonable packages. So for whatever budget you have, you can find a resort that will fit your budget. And people know of these places, so they won't be afraid to go. I mean, if you want something more exotic, like St. Lucia, to me is voted the most romantic place, or the best place to go for honeymoon. So St. Lucia could be a good place for you to go for your honeymoon. So that is something you think about. So you want to think about your destination, who you think is going to want to come to your resort, to your destination. The budget is going to be a big deal. Like if you're having a destination wedding, you need to think about the things you have to pay for your wedding. Unlike a traditional wedding, your destination wedding is going to involve traveling. So you need to know how much that's going to cost, where you're going to travel from. So you need to put a budget together. It's going to be the wedding package, the accommodations and airfare that you need to have to including the budget, as well as accessories, your wedding gown, all the things you need to bring to destination. So these are things you need to have an idea of how much is that going to cost you, how much money do you have to plan your wedding, and then how many guests you're going to invite. That depends on how many people you think you're going to want to travel to your destination. So for me, before you even start planning, you need to figure, yes, I want a wedding. Where do I want the wedding? How how many people I think I'm going to invite, what's my budget. Those are key things for you to think of and decide on before you even start planning. So once you've said you want a destination wedding, hopefully you've picked a location and a resort, then what's the next step? Normally with my destination wedding plan or checklist, you always want to plan your wedding at least 12 months and beyond. You can have I've seen people plan a destination in 6 months, which would, to me, is not the ideal time, but you can still plan a destination wedding within 6 months. The reason why I say 12 months to just start planning and getting an idea of where you want to go, what dates you want, try to make sure when you're picking dates, you're not picking hurricane season or you're not picking high season, because the prices are going to be higher. So a lot of things to consider in picking the destination, picking your date, your budget, how many people you're going to invite. Because this is a destination wedding, you always want to plan further out, at least 12 months in advance, and pick your place so you can at least save the dates so your clients will know, or your guests will know, all right, I'm going to go to a destination wedding. It's going to be in 7 months. At least I know how much it's going to cost me. I can save towards that, or I can, because some people need time off from work because now they're going to be traveling to your wedding and it's going to be at least 4 days. So you need to give people ample time so you can plan ahead to know if they get a time off from work and also if they can afford to travel. So that's why you always want to, start planning early so you can let your guests know as soon as possible so they can make arrangements to attend your wedding. Also, there's so many things involved in planning your wedding. You want to give yourself time. So the first thing is finding your location, getting a wedding package, and now either getting a group rate if you want, depending how many rooms you're going to be blocking. So you want to get to block rooms so people coming to your wedding will have a set price in a wedding for the room. So they're aware of what the room's going to cost, and then there's going to be availability. So to me, if you're having over 10 rooms or 20 people attending your wedding and you're going to have over 10 rooms, I would consider getting a group rate so you can secure these rooms for your guests and it will be at a set price. So these are the things you need to think about. Also, if you're really in that 12 months period and undecided, a lot of resorts offer test drive your wedding, in which you can go to the resort for 2 days. They'll walk you around the property, show you different wedding locations. You can taste the food, see the cake, meet the DJ, photographer, videographer, and get a feeling if this place is going to be right for you. So that is something you can do early in the process to make sure you can help make your decision. So for me, going to the resort if you can and visit it before you make that final decision, if you're so unsure and not I can't make a decision, is the best thing to do. So you want to give yourself time to go to the resort and see if that's the right place for you, and then decide if that's where you want to have your destination wedding. So to me, between the 12 and 9 month period, you should be finalizing your destination. And when you do send out save the dates to your guests, so at least they're aware that you're going to be having a wedding in the future. So between 9 and 6 months is when I think you would be, like, say, taking engagement photos, because you want to probably create a wedding website, which I highly recommend, because there's so many people coming to your wedding, and it's a great place that you can put all the information so everyone can have access to the information and know what's going on. So I would say creating a wedding website is a good thing. You can, share information about the resort so people will hopefully book the right resort and not just book a resort, because a destination wedding, you have to, one thing people don't understand, when you do a destination wedding, if your guest is not staying on the property as a wedding, you have to pay for them to come on property. So you have to pay a fee, a day pass for them to come to your wedding. So it's additional cost for you. So you want to always make sure that people are booking at the destination or at the resort that the wedding is going to be, because that's going to require more cost for you, for them to come on property to attend your wedding. So you're going to pay for them in your wedding package, and also you're going to pay for them to come on property. So that's a tip, and that's something that you need to think about when you're doing a destination wedding, making sure people know exactly what the resort is and book that resort. So between 6 and 9 months, I would say you would send out your save the date, create your wedding website, start figuring who's going to be in your wedding party, start looking at your dresses. For bridal dresses, it could take 6 months for you to get your dress from time you find it to the time you have your final fitting. So these are things you want to get started on. and then you're going to start planning with the resort. Most resort don't really start the detail of your wedding or planning the actual detail of your wedding till 3 months to your wedding date. So, a lot of um, brides kind of get freaked out of like, oh my God, my wedding is in like 4 months and I haven't heard from the resort. But don't worry about that. They're going to contact you and you're going to be working with the wedding planner directly on the resort too. And this is something that they've done over and over again. So it's not something new. So they're very experienced in that. So don't be, upset or freaking out if you don't hear from the wedding planner on property within a certain time frame. They're aware of, what to do and when to contact you. So that's good. When I did my wedding at Sandals, the thing I like is that we scheduled from the time I booked my wedding to my wedding. We booked monthly meetings, then it got to 2 weeks meetings. So every month we were looking at one thing, one aspect of the wedding, whether it was the ceremony we did that month. They gave me a price, so I know what was in my cart. Next time we did cocktail, like what I want for cocktail, and we covered that. Then I covered reception another month. And I would just paint as I go once I made decisions on my wedding. So I like that concept of doing that. So it just kept me in the loop. And I felt like I was I wasn't all over the place because there was a schedule as to when we were going to cover certain things for my wedding. So, 3 to 6 months, I would say you start looking at flights to see if you find, good deals on flights for you and your guests. Also, you think about guest experience, meaning that they're going to be flying or coming to your wedding over a long weekend for 3 nights. Are you going to do anything specifically special for them, like a welcome reception or a farewell brunch or a group dinner? So think of things you can do. And also could be excursion. You could do a catamaran cruise for your guests. You could do a beach party. So a lot of things you can do just to show your appreciation that, thank you for attending my wedding. And it's like a thank you gift to your guests. So always think of what you can do once they're on property to make them feel welcome and to show them appreciation for coming all the way to attend your wedding. So to me, 3 to 6 months, think about what you want to do for your guests. You can post it on your website. You can also arrange a tour and they pay you subsidize part of it if you can't afford to do the whole thing. So there's lots of ways to get your guests involved and to show them to thank them for coming in a special way. So that's something you should think about. So I would say order your wedding invitation. A lot of times people don't really do wedding invitation. I did one because I just like the idea of having a card and mailing it to someone. But a lot of people do a lot of Evite invitation. If you're doing a wedding registry, I would think this is a good time to do that also. Also, with a wedding registry, one thing I would say is having a destination wedding, you're just not going to get as much gift as you would doing a traditional wedding, because a traditional wedding, people are always coming and going off your guest list and buying you stuff. For a destination wedding, because people are paying so much, could be $15 plus $100 they're paying to come to your wedding. Most times you do not get a wedding list, a gift off your wedding registry. But what you can do, you can have a honeymoon list and you could post that a link on there on your web page. And it's like money's going towards your honeymoon or more money's going towards different pieces of your wedding. So you can have a honeymoon list and guests can pay $50 or whatever as a way of giving you a gift for your wedding. So that's something to think about. Most resort, they have a registry that you can go on to add stuff to your wedding, and guests can actually come in and pay for part of that. So that's something you can definitely think of doing that. And also, if you're doing a group and you're not using a professional destination wedding planner, you have to keep track of all your guests, when they're booking, when they're coming, their transfers. So you really have to keep and have a log and keep track of all the guests that are booked and who's coming to your wedding, because you need to know this. And also, it's a way of just keeping organized, if they're coming to your wedding when they should be there, and, just keeping track of all your guests. So if you hired a destination wedding specialist like myself, I keep track of that for you and just let you know who was booked, when they're coming. So at least you're aware of how many people you've invited and how many people have actually said yes and actually booked their room. So that's you have to keep track of that, because every person that comes, you have to pay for when you get on property, and you don't want to miscount and not have enough space for people. So by 1 to 3 months, everything, your wedding should have been finalized. Your guest list should be finalized. You should know exactly who's coming. Everything should be paid in full. And as I said, most resort wants final payment at least 45 days to 60 days before actual wedding date. So at that time, everything should be paid off in full. Right now, you should be putting together a packing list to making sure that you're not going to forget anything. So you're going to have a list of everything you need for your wedding. And always say, bring an emergency kit. An emergency kit is just tape, ear pins, everything that you can think of that you might need. And, you're not going to be able to find it because you're going to be on destination. So I have a list. I have to put it out there of what should be in your emergency kit and have it with you. So at least you're always prepared. Should something go wrong or somebody just miss something, needle and thread, you need to have all these things ready just in case, because being in a destination and, sometimes you don't have access or it just costs you so much to find these things. So these are things you should have and bring with you when you're going on resort. Make sure you assign duties. What I mean that if you're gonna have a wedding party, you should have people doing things for your wedding. Meaning that if you're gonna be bringing a welcome bag, you probably assign to your bridesmaids, give them certain things to bring, so you're not the one bringing everything to the destination, because that might cost you a lot more money to check multiple bags. So assign people duties, like who's gonna bring who's gonna bring your rings. Boy, I'm losing it. Who's gonna bring your rings? Also, if you're giving a gift to each other, like who's gonna deliver them to the room? Certain things you need to work out so you know what's gonna happen before you get on property, and people are not running around not knowing what to do or where to find things. Get your seating charts together. Right now, because of COVID, instead of having 8 per table, it's 6 per table. So that's something to think about. You'll know that because the wedding planner on property will let you know exactly what the seating arrangement is. And most of them will do seating charts for you. So these are things you just need to find out when you're at resort, what they're going to be doing. So you're packed, now you're on resort. So most time the wedding couple will be on resort 3 to 4 days before the wedding, because if you're having a legal wedding or a symbolic wedding, the resort requires for you to be on property at least 2 or 3 days before the wedding. So when you're on resort, the wedding planner will be making an appointment with you, most likely the next day, and they're going to go over your wedding details. They're going to walk you through the actual location. You either pick out the cake or taste the cake that you selected for your wedding. Talk with your photographer, videographer, so they know exactly how you want your pictures to be. Your DJ list would have already been sent to your DJ if you're using a DJ as to what music you want to play. So it's just fine tuning the details of your wedding and make sure you're satisfied with what you've discussed with them, and when you get there, what it is when you get there. So, most likely you'll do a trial makeup. I did one the day before my wedding, so at least I know that I like the makeup they're using. I think for Sandals, I was on a webinar and they have single-use makeup, meaning that for each bride, they get their own makeup set. So it's not being reused because of COVID. So when they're done, you get to keep it. So that is a beautiful thing, that at least if you're not bringing your own makeup, that they're providing single-use makeup when you do your makeup. So hair and makeup, pedicure, you make all your appointments. You try to have those, especially manicure, pedicure. If you're doing that the day before, if you're having a welcome party, make sure it's organized and all your guests know where to meet up. And then, really is have fun with your guests and, really enjoy your happily ever after. But to me, the biggest thing, these are some pro tips I have also before I go on to that. The pro tips I have is make sure, whatever destination you're going to, especially if the Caribbean, that everyone needs a passport, and the passport should not be expiring 6 months before travel. So, that is one thing. If you're packing your wedding attire, make sure you're packing them in a carry-on bag. You don't want to put them in a suitcase and check them, because you just never know what will happen. So find out if your airline has a way to, carry your wedding dress, if you can bring it on the plane or where they put it, so that's safe and secured. Schedule time. People don't think about that. Like, when is your bouquet or boutonniere going to be delivered to your room? If you're having a 4:00 wedding, I probably want it by 12. I just want to make sure it's there. So make sure that you just schedule these times with the wedding planner to make sure everything that you want and time you want it is all set. I would say electric converters. I go to a lot of places, like sometimes I go to St. Lucia, they have, it's different. They have 120 and they have the other local ones. So I was always bring an electric converter because so most time there's not enough outlets there to plug everything you want in. So that's something, I would do. Um, Wedding insurance or insurance on your room, I highly recommend whoever is having a destination to see if the resort have any COVID insurance, like what should happen if the resort's closed and you can't have your wedding. I had a wedding in August. The wedding was originally for June, but the resort was closed. So we moved the wedding to a new date in August and everything was moved over at no additional cost. But you just need to know what the resort's policy is to say if something should happen and you can't have your wedding because of COVID or the resort's closed or there's a COVID outbreak. You just need to know what your options are. So that's something I think you should be aware of. And on another, most of the people in this group are still thinking about a wedding. So I would say you really need to hone in on why you want a destination wedding, what destination you've been to that you like, that you think you might want to have a wedding. Always think of the destination. Now, easily is it for people to get to? Like I said, I'm in New York, so from New York to anywhere, it's pretty easy, but to the Caribbean is even easier. So for me to Jamaica is easy. The Bahamas, Mexico, DR, they're all direct flights. If people are in California, most of them are looking to do weddings in Mexico because there's direct flights there and the flight time is lower. So depending on where you are, you should think which area. Like I know people from Albany, there is no direct flight to anywhere from Albany. You have to stop, so they're traveling like all day. So you always want to think about where you want to have your wedding, the number of variety of resorts that's there. Like Jamaica has a lot of all-inclusive resort, and they have places in 3 different locations. Whether you want Montego Bay, you want Negril, which is a hip strip with the 7 Mile Beach, you want Ocho Rios. There's like so many places to choose from, so many resorts to choose from. The same thing with Mexico. If you want Cancun, you want Playa del Carmen, you want Los Cabos, there is lots of selections, lots of places to select, and also lots of resort that are quality resort that you can have a beautiful destination wedding at, and the time of year you want to have it. So you try not to pick high season, and you'll try not to pick hurricane season. So you try to, because it's more expensive during high season than like during a holiday time. During winter time, it's more expensive. So it gets cheaper. Like, the middle of August on, it gets cheaper. So think about that when you're planning your wedding. What is your budget? What's the budget for your wedding? How many people you're planning on inviting? And then do a little test, ask people, if I did a destination wedding, would you want to come? So these are things, are the right people going to be there for your wedding? But, a destination wedding to me is a beautiful thing. I enjoyed both of my weddings. Everyone who attended the wedding that I had in Jamaica is still talking about the experience because it was an experience of a lifetime. Everyone was together. We did a lot of stuff on the beach. The wedding was spectacular. Everybody just kept, they didn't want to leave. So, the reason why you're having a wedding, because you want to create memorable moments that people are not going to forget. And you just want to make sure that, you plan it in a stress-free way, because it's very, especially if you haven't done a wedding before, number one, and then you're doing a destination wedding, it's quite stressful. It's quite overwhelming to know, how do I pick a resort? How do I pick a destination? That's the hard part of the whole process. And that's where I spend a lot of time when I'm with clients, just trying to figure out, what do they like? Do they like modern rooms? Do they like all inclusive? Is it going to be family friendly? Do they like the beach? They want more entertainment. They want great food. So there's a lot of combination to try to put together to pick that resort or that location that's going to be what the couple is looking for. So to me, you have to do a lot of research, just thinking about, where do you like, where is an ideal place you think you'd want to have a wedding if you're doing a destination wedding, and then doing more research as to the resorts. What is their wedding like, looking online, looking at their wedding packages, looking at the room costs. So there's a lot of research that goes into just the beginning stage of trying to plan your wedding. So it takes a lot of time. So I'm hoping this destination wedding checklist and timeline will help you kind of, put it in perspective and, keep you on track. So, but if you're looking for help, I'm here. I'm available. You can leave me a message. I'll be more than happy to help you or guide you through the wedding planning process. If you have any questions, please leave a DM message for me, and I'll be more than happy to reply to you. So thank you again for joining me, and hope to see you next week on Monday as I talk about more things Destination Wedding. Bye.